Hey, welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. More importantly, it's about recovery. I'm Casey Scott, and that is Dr. Matt Woolley, a clinical psychologist. I say that just so people know. It gives us credibility of, that you're the brains and I'm the beauty of the show.
You're definitely the beauty, Casey.
Maybe the brawn.
Brawn and beauty.
Ooh, double B.
Got the curls.
I love it. Curls get the girls.
Right.
That's what they say. Hey, so in recovery, there's this term, and you'll hear it thrown around all the time. And it's called triggers. And it probably has something to do in your world as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a term we use in mental health, especially in, PTSD, trauma work. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what is a trigger?
So a trigger is kind of what it sounds like. It's an event or an experience that triggers or is like a catalyst to a strong feeling you might have. So in the world of PTSD or trauma, if you heard something, saw something, had a conversation with somebody, and it triggered an anxiety response, caused you to feel like you're having that trauma response. In the world of addiction, recovery, and sobriety, it might be that you're doing great, you're not thinking about drinking, and all of a sudden a commercial comes on TV or you drive by a certain place, and boom, you get triggered. You feel that need or that taste in your mouth, that thought about using again.
Guess where I moved last week?
To YMCA.
To Trigger Town.
Trigger Town.
Trigger Town. I was the only resident of Trigger Town last week. So here, just to let you know.
I don't know what that is.
So my week was nothing but triggers last week.
Okay. This is good because we don't really talk about your triggers very often.
I had family member in and out of ER in the hospital.
Oh.
Everybody's okay.
Okay.
But multiple visits to the ER.
Oh,
multiple stays in the hospital.
For family members,
For
not
a family
for
member.
you.
Not for me, for a family member. My older brother, mother-in-law passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So I had a funeral. Mm-hmm. I had to DJ a wedding. I had a graduation. My oldest daughter broke up with her boyfriend.
Oh.
I mean, it was just like everything that could be piled on at once came flooding down last week.
It's true that sometimes when it rains, it pours. Like everything happens.
And when I say it's trigger, normally I could get through any of those things with a little help of my friend alcohol. It made everything doable. In my head at the time, I thought it made it doable.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. That's a big reason that people drink.
Yeah.
Or smoke and do those sorts of things is because when the stress is on, the stress is high. When the emotion is big, like with somebody's sick, somebody passes away, going to a funeral, or when the emotions are high and positive, like if it's, like you said, maybe it's a party, you're DJing a wedding, that kind of stuff.
And I'm knee deep in a remodel still.
Right.
I mean, so all these, and so you'll see it on TV programs, you'll see it on movies, you'll hear it in everyday life. It's like, I just can't wait home to get a drink, to take the edge off the day. You know what I mean? Just to make everything a little more palatable. And in the beginning, that's how it's sold to you. This is a friend. This is an aid. This is going to help you get through whatever it is.
It becomes associated with relaxing and de-stressing. It also becomes associated with partying and relaxing and having fun. I mean, yeah, all those big things.
And so all those things happened in 1 week. And so last Sunday, I'm driving with my girlfriend, the lovely Leslie, and she goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And I go, I think I'm doing okay." She goes, "You are." She goes, "I'm surprised how well you are handling this week." And I said, "Thank you very much." I really didn't think about it all that much. And to be honest with you, I didn't feel triggered to go get drinks.
So describe your trigger for the listeners, because for some people they would tell us, they would say, "You have toenail polish on."
Yeah.
Okay, that was distracting.
Yeah.
To me. All right, so back on track. People would say, like they get that taste in their mouth, or they feel like that draw, like I just I'd like to have that drink. They think about going to their favorite place.
I'll break it down the way old Casey would have handled any one of those situations last week.
Okay.
Family member in the ER. We all show up, make sure everything's okay, hopefully get the news that it is. And then we'd go somewhere, have some cocktails, have some drinks, and talk about the event. Mm-hmm. And see what we could do to help, see what we could do to fix, see what we could do different.
Mm-hmm. The family would go. Yeah.
Okay. So that one. Wedding. I usually had beers before the wedding, during the wedding, and after the wedding. And it just helped me get through the wedding. And mind you, I wasn't supposed to be at the wedding other than just help. But in my mind,
You were DJing the wedding?
This made me a better DJ. And I was usually the guy at the party at the wedding going, you guys want one more song? We don't have to go home. Let's keep the party going.
Right.
And people are like, yeah, we got a honeymoon, man. We've been waiting for a long time for this night. So we appreciate it, Mr. DJ, but we got to go. So I would have done that.
Yeah.
Funerals. Not a big fan of death. I don't know anybody that is.
Yeah. No.
But funerals, usually a couple of beers before the funeral to take the anxiety away and just kind of alleviate some pressure. And then after the funeral, everybody gets together to drink and share stories and celebrate one's life. I mean, that's how it works in my family.
Sure.
Didn't do any of that. Graduation, there's usually a graduation party. And in fact, there was. You go there and you go, I'm pretty sure this is not for the kids because everyone here is over 21 and they are hammered.
Yeah.
But and ran into a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in a long time. This was a college friend's son who just graduated high school.
Oh, okay.
Went there and, the drinks were flowing. They had a taiko drummer drumming and, it was just kind of cool. But normally that would have been a couple of beers on the way down.
Yeah.
A couple of there. Hey, anybody want shots? Talking people into shots.
I know you were good at that.
And so didn't drink there.
Yeah.
The remodel.
Champagne when the boyfriend and your daughter break up.
Well, no, that was bad, bro.
Because you liked him, huh?
Yeah, I do like him.
How do you like your daughter's boyfriend?
Because he treats her well. And I think, I don't want to get into too much of her story, but he's going away for the summer.
Yeah.
And she's staying.
Oh, he's not going to go sell stuff in some state.
Yeah.
With people at their doors.
Yeah. He's doing
he's that guy, huh?
He's going to do that.
Right.
Because his older brother did it and seemed to do pretty well at it.
Yeah.
And so they broke up for the summer, which I think is responsible. You know what I mean?
That is like a temporary breakup?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think any breakup can be temporary.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he's going to go do that and she's going to do that. But this is her first big heartbreak.
Yeah, that's hard to see your daughter go through that,
there was a lot of just
right?
me on the couch with her,
She crying a lot and all that.
And then she got her wisdom teeth out yesterday. So this has
been a big week.
A cornucopia of crap.
Yeah.
That's just been coming at me. So me and her just watching some Netflix and The Office and her crying and me asking if I can do anything and no and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And, and then when you want people or friends to help you remodel, the number one tool is alcohol. Come over and I'll buy all the beer and pizza.
Yeah. Did you still have to buy beer and pizza for people?
No.
So you're talking friends into this, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know she didn't call me.
Well, because I
know I don't have those skills.
You've got a green
You'd have to
thumb.
redo all that.
You've got a green thumb. You're more when the gardening comes out.
Maybe. I don't know if I'm good at that either.
But I think I keep you pretty busy dealing with friends and family. So you do help out immensely. So, but what I'm saying is that it felt really good to go through all these things, which a year into my sobriety would have been huge triggers.
Yeah.
And would have been like, whoa.
So you're kind of saying it didn't trigger you.
No. You
didn't feel like...
I was never overwhelmed or
weren't smacking your lips.
No.
And
I was surrounded by alcohol for a good portion of the time.
Well, so I was going to ask you, like, specifically... you mentioned like going to the ER, family member there. That can be very, very stressful. And I know you have a tight family, and so I'm not surprised everybody would get together afterwards. Did you do that? And did they have cocktails or
No, they didn't. You know what? And I don't know if
has the culture of drinking changed a little bit in your family?
Yes, quite a bit. My dad quit when I quit.
Right, I know that.
And my older brother doesn't drink a ton. My little brother is not a real. He's battling his own demons.
Okay.
And then my mom, she doesn't drink all that often. But our parties aren't what they used to be anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I would like to think they learned something from what I went through, but I think it's also we're in different stages of our lives now. It's
everybody's getting a little older.
My parents are in their 70s. I'm busy with my 3 kids and my girlfriend and her 2 kids, and then my jobs and stuff like that. It's just I think we've evolved a little bit.
Yeah, I'll throw out just a thought, and I think that because you didn't force like no alcohol at parties on the family, you very clearly your mom offered it, right? She said, "Well, we just won't have beer at the parties anymore," and you said, "No, I don't want that. People should be able to do what they want." So that continued.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that you are a charismatic leader in your family, whether you realize that or not. You have a lot of big personalities in your family, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're a big leader there, and because it wasn't forced on them, and because you continued to have fun. I think it, without anybody thinking about it, I bet any of your family members that might listen to this, they would say, well, maybe Matt's not right. But I think I'm right, because I think it was subtle. Like, I think it just, like, the parties kept being fun, the get-togethers kept being enjoyable, we still loved each other.
We still laugh a lot.
The drinking just sort of dropped off to where I know that there's probably still drinking occasionally, but it's not like it used to be. And so maybe being older is part of it. But I also think that culture changes within a family when one person gets sober and is living a life of recovery. Not just sober and white-knuckling it, but living a life of recovery, really killing it, having a great life, being happy. I think it sort of rubs off in a positive way on everybody else.
Well, I appreciate that.
Your mom will probably call me and tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, she will. She's good at that. But yeah, and so what I'm saying is that I do believe in triggers, and I know they do exist. But I can also sit here and tell you that you can fight them and you can win them. And if you just keep doing the next right thing, the next time that trigger comes, you can handle it a little easier.
I would take it one step further, and I would say let's plan ahead for them. It's not if, but when. Mm-hmm. You are going to be triggered. That's just life, especially if you've had a real addiction that you've struggled and battled hard to get over, and now you're in sobriety and you're trying to live a life of recovery. Just know that triggers, that's part of how our biology, our physiology works. You know, we're accustomed to those substances. So they will happen, so you should have a plan. You should talk about your plan, like, you know, with your loved ones, your partner, your friends and family, people you can reach out to if you have a sponsor, of course. But it's important, I think, to have a plan ahead of time, and then it's easier to keep doing the next right thing.
And for people who are listening at home who are not an alcoholic, but know an alcoholic, and going, well, that just seems crazy the way Casey described how he dealt with problems in his life. Substitute alcohol for food.
Oh, yeah.
And a diet, and tell me you don't have triggers. Try, you know what I mean?
How about the drive-through at these soda places?
But try being on a diet.
Yeah.
And going through all those things.
Yeah. And not go grab you some French fries or ice cream or So everybody has their caffeine, their food, or numbing out neurologically, like the Netflix and oversleeping.
Bumble.
I mean, okay, Bumble, but whatever it is, he's looking at Josh. Whatever it is, people, we all have our things we use to get through the tough times.
Yeah.
And hopefully most of what we use is not that detrimental, but if you're honest with yourself, it can be.
I agree 100%. Hey, I'm excited for today. We've got a guest in studio. His name is Riley. Now, Riley, I forgot your last name. I'm sorry.
Loosemore.
And Riley's been sober about 5 years, and we're going to hear Riley's story coming up next right here on Project Recovery. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. Casey Scott, Dr. Matt Woolley. Our guest today is Riley Loosemore. How are you, man?
Good.
You've been clean off of meth and alcohol for 5 years.
Yep.
Where does the story of Riley Loosemore begin?
So I was born in Ogden, and when I was real young, my mom and dad moved us to San Diego, and I grew up in San Diego. In the second grade, my dad took me to school, and he wrote Sue on the back of my shirt and sent me into class. And so everybody called me Sue all day, and I didn't know anything about the Johnny Cash song, but I went home that night, and my big sister and my mom were crying in the corner, and I ran through the house, and I realized all my dad's stuff was gone, and he was gone. So he left us, and then my mom decided to move to Morgan. We had family up in Morgan.
Whoa, wait. So why would he write Sue? I mean, a boy named Sue. I get that part of it.
That's why.
And he was trying to teach you a lesson or
Because
prepare you?
I guess he was waiting for me to come back later in life to beat him up in a bar somewhere or something, like the song.
Did you?
No.
And then he just Irish exited and just left the house.
Just gone. All his stuff was gone. I realized his closet, everything in his closet was gone.
That's pretty traumatic for a boy named Sue.
Yep, that's right.
Right?
Yep.
And so...
What was your relationship like with your dad before that?
It gets pretty deep. really. It was very abusive, and when it all came out, he like basically disowned me anyway. He didn't want nothing to do with me. I had no more attention from him or anything. So I was just kind of shunned anyway, and then I guess he finally decided to leave. I mean, we rebuilt our relationship later in life, like, when I was in my 20s and stuff, and he'd show up here and there. But
when you were young, did your dad struggle with substance abuse?
Yeah, he was bad alcoholic. So, yeah, so anyway, we moved from, and I became a diehard Charger fan.
I see that you got the hat, with all the swag.
So, from San Diego in about 5th grade, we decided to move to Morgan,
Utah.
Right.
Little small community nestled right there.
And as we were talking off air, it turns out you and I were at high school at the same time. You're a couple years older than I am, but of course I knew all your buddies, and I wish I'd have thought to bring the yearbook. Could show some nice pictures of us.
Yeah, well, I made it till I was 14. So I went through Morgan Middle School.
Yep.
And I got up to the freshman year. And then my sister moved from California when she was 18, 19. And she brought one of her friends with her. She had gotten pregnant in California, and they got better Medicaid here or whatever. And so she came here to have the baby. And she brought her, cute little friend with her. And I was 14. So I introduced myself to her and got to know her. And that's when we decided to run away to California, back to California together at 14. That's when I dyed my hair and put an earring in and started smoking weed and doing cocaine and drinking and smoking cigarettes. And,
all at the age of 14.
I was a big boy now.
And you moved back to California. How long did you stay in California for?
About 4 months. And she decided she didn't want to be with a 14-year-old kid anymore. Plus, my mom had gone crazy and put wanted posters everywhere, missing posters everywhere.
So you had just left and not told your mom where you were?
Yeah, well, I wrote her a bunch of letters, and then they had a friend that was driving to Florida, so they dropped off a bunch of letters on the way to Florida, thinking I was on the East Coast.
So you put some thought into this.
Yeah, we planned it, and that's when I started playing guitar and thinking I was a big boy and, doing drugs and partying. And
Now, prior to that, at 14, so you fall in love with this girl, and I can't blame you for that. That's hard when you're 14. But prior to that, had you already started drinking or smoking weed or anything? So it was that relationship that just kind of made you crazy for love and introduced you to drugs.
Yeah, I was kind of on track for being a Mormon missionary type deal up to that point. I was going to the LDS church, and I was still a troublemaker a little bit, you know what I mean? But, because my friends and everything. But as far as my family was concerned at that time, they wanted me to be, Mormon and be a missionary. And my family is my grandmommy, her grandpa is Joseph F. Smith. So
prophet,
that was the
president of the church. Yeah.
So you come from great lineage.
That can be hard.
Church.
That can be hard to live up to, right?
Yeah. And so, and I was just in love with this girl, right? I didn't know what love was or whatever, but she.
Well, in all fairness, I think when we're 14, we're in lust.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But it happens to everybody, and it can make you think you know more than you know, and that you can do more than you can do. And it sounds like you decided, let's head back to California with her.
Yeah, and then after she had disappeared and kind of left on the streets of California, I called my big brothers and they kind of talked my mom into letting, came home and surprised my mom, and I got talked into being put in the behavioral health unit up at the old St. Benedict's in Ogden.
In Ogden, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first time.
Washington Terrace, I think. Yeah, rough place.
And my mom moved from Morgan down to Washington Terrace, be closer to me while I was locked up in the behavioral health unit. And then when I got out of there, we just moved to the Terrace, and I started going to Bonneville High.
So what was the thought process behind the behavioral unit? Just because they just wanted to see what was going on with you?
Yeah, here's a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, that was kind of back then. I mean, it's not a whole lot different than it is now. I think we do a much better job of assessment and helping teens get to where they need to be, and the programs are much more well designed and frankly helpful than they were back then. But back in those days, most of the programs were kind of, there were private programs, but a lot were just in the hospital. And to be honest, it was a lot of sort of housing a kid and not doing a whole lot for them. But I don't know, what was your experience like as a teen in the behavioral health unit?
Well, it was different because, back then you just kind of sat around and they let you smoke. Even at 14, they let you smoke there. And
it's Ogden.
Yeah, and you sit around in your pajamas all day and
watch TV.
Go to group.
Yeah, go to group.
You got a group, and you got, my first experience with a man that dressed like a lady. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, they was trying to fix him too, and so it was a behavioral health unit. So I was in there, got used to that, and got out and went to, my mom moved down to Valley West Apartments, and I went to Bonneville High School, and I became part of the parking lot crew. You wear the leather jacket or the denim jacket, and
some heavy metal band on the back.
Yep. Metallica or whatever.
Iron Maiden.
Hacky sack
Iron
played
Maiden
some
was
hacky
big
sack.
for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got into the parking lot crew.
Yep.
Were you starting to do drugs again? Or
yeah, smoking weed and drinking, getting in trouble, got caught stealing, got put back in the behavioral health unit, got back out. And then when I was about 15, I decided I didn't want to go to school anymore. So I was a sophomore going into a junior, and I dropped out. Talked my mom into letting me move in with my older brothers, and they were 10 years older than me and in a band and long hair and rockers. And so I moved into my big brother's house, and I thought I got a job at the Ogden Golf and Country Club as a dishwasher, and I went and got 2 bottles, 2 fifths of vodka, and I was going to match my big brother shot for shot. And the next thing I remember, I'm in the hospital getting my stomach pumped because I overdosed on vodka. And back into treatment, you know what I mean? That's when they put
alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of vodka for anybody, let alone a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah. So, and I just, and then, that was my first experience with putting charcoal down you and making you throw it all up.
Yeah, I've talked to so many kids, or they're just, that is miserable but necessary sometimes to save a kid's life.
So you're living with your older brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, at this point, my mom had decided to put me in the Day Spring Treatment Center there at McKay-Dee.
Yeah.
And they had an adolescent program there. So I went there, and, that's my first experience with AA. In recovery, and I did real good. I was doing real good. Got out of the treatment for 6 weeks of treatment, and I met a girl. We got real close. We thought we were going to be grown-ups. Ended up getting her pregnant at 16, I guess, and had my son Trevor. He was born, and here I am, 16 years old. Just got this baby boy. I got a job as a dishwasher at JB's in Roy. We got our own apartment. She got pregnant again. And, I was doing all right. I was still drinking and smoking weed a little bit, but I was trying to be a grown-up at, this point, 17. We ended up getting married. My son Casey was born, beautiful boy, and it seemed just like a couple weeks later that she got pregnant again.
Wow.
And I'm like... And I'll admit, I folded on that pressure of having 3 kids coming.
I can't even imagine. Can you imagine that?
3 kids under the age of 19.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. So I ended up doing acid and getting fired from my job at JB's. I went crazy, and they ended up letting me go. And she divorced. We got divorced. And I moved up to Spokane, Washington, and then I was only there a couple weeks with an old friend of mine, and I got a call that my ex-wife, my wife Stacy, went into hemorrhaging. She had been life-flighted to the University of Utah, and they was taking my son, my baby boy. So I raced back down and get on Greyhound bus, raced back down here, raced to the University of Utah Hospital, and he was born. He was 2 pounds, 2 ounces. He could fit in the palm of my hand.
Goodness.
My baby boy, right? And so I stayed here, and I moved in with my mom. I got a job at Village Inn, cooking, trying to, be a dad the best I can, but I'm drinking and partying. I ended up getting an apartment with some guys from work, and it just turned into a big party house, jungle juice night every night, you know what I mean? And working at Village Inn as a cook. And I met this other girl, Hannah, and we fell in love and decided to run away to California together.
Wait a second. Part 2.
Yep.
Deja vu.
And so we go there, and we decide, to come back, and she got pregnant.
How old are you this time?
20, 21. So, she gets pregnant. I get a job at the Channel 20 television station as a technical director at night, and you guys probably know what a technical director is. You're basically the guy that pushes the button for the infomercial and then push the button 28 minutes later for the commercial again. And that's all I did all night, and got introduced to crystal meth.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
Before we find out about crystal meth, I just need you to, you know what causes babies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure you know this, because here you are.
He's expert.
Yeah, you're 21 and you got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So you're technical director and you get introduced to crystal meth.
Yeah, so I'm staying up all night. It was crank back then, and then the real pure crystal meth came into town, and I got to be able to do that. And I was in a band, and I could stay up forever, and I could work graveyard shifts, and I could do this and that, sell drugs here and there, and do all this. And I was the man, and you know what I mean? It was awesome, right, as far as I was concerned, and stayed up forever. And moved into a house with my big brother and Hannah, and my son was born, and I had a couple of buddies living there.
So this is your 4th son was born?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was born December 2nd, exactly 5 years apart from my first son on December 2nd. So they got the same birthday, just 5 years apart.
4 kids in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I was doing meth and trying to work, and my roommate, 2 weeks after he was born, about 3 weeks, I guess, because the day after Christmas, they kicked in my door. Strike Force kicked in my door and came in and raided me and arrested me for a crime that was committed out in Willard. Somebody had committed a murder out there, and they had connected me to it, and I got arrested.
So, whoa, okay.
You got both hands up. You got both hands up.
Tyler, so the door getting kicked in is in California.
No, it's in Utah.
You're back in Utah at that point. Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah.
And Willard, just for the listeners know, that's like Willard Bay might be something. It's a recreational reservoir up just north of Ogden.
15 minutes out of Ogden.
Yeah. Okay, and you were living in what part of Salt Lake? Salt Lake?
No, I was living in Ogden.
Ogden. Okay, so you're not too far away, but a murder happened.
Yeah.
Okay, and they somehow, how did they connect you to that? What was their reasoning for kicking in your door?
They just kind of connected the dots to some people that had been seen at my house or whatnot, because I was selling and being a part of. And
sounds like you were kind of feeling, I hate to use this term, but a little bit like a big shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. You're
real.
You're just feeling hey, I'm somebody.
Yeah.
Doing this, doing whatever I want. I'm a little bit of an outlaw. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that got you noticed in a bad way because you're associating with some maybe not so great people.
Right.
Okay.
So Strike Force kicks in your door and arrest you for?
They arrested me for suspicion of the murder, whatever. They didn't pin me on it yet. They just arrested me and put me in jail for a 72-hour hold.
Whoa.
And
that usually means, from what I understand, if they don't make the arrest for the murder at the time, but they do that 72 hours, that means they feel confident enough that they can get that information in the evidence can be there. So I think they probably felt pretty confident that they could make an arrest.
Yeah. So, and back then, 72-hour hold was Monday through Friday business hours. So it turned into like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? 72 hours turns into 3 weeks at 8 hours
just
a day.
Business hours?
Yeah.
That's creative math, huh?
You know what I mean? So they spent some time trying to build a case, and after that, during that time, they realized what was really going on and who did it and whatever. And
you didn't do it?
No, but they let me out, and I was supposed to testify. They wanted me to testify. So they dropped me out.
Was that part of their agreement?
Yeah, they let me out, gave me his card.
In exchange for?
We're going to let you out. Don't go nowhere. We're going to need you later for court. To tell us what you know.
Yeah.
And I got scared and I ran. I put a backpack on. I picked up my guitar. Hannah had already taken my son and disappeared to California. Gone.
Wait, we're going to find out where he goes after this. You're listening to Project Recovery. So the cops give you a ticket or a card and says, be around. We're going to need you to testify.
Yeah.
But you were definitely told not to leave town.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you decided to?
Step off my front porch and walk down to the park and sit there.
Okay.
So what was your plan after the park?
Well, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go or what to do. I just knew I didn't want to be home, and I wasn't going to testify, and I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't know what to do, and I ended up just walking the streets of Ogden.
For how long?
Well, 4 years and 8 months, almost 5 years.
I think they call that a walkabout.
Did you just say 4 years and 8 months?
Before I got arrested.
So you just left the house and chose essentially to be homeless. Like you didn't want was that out of fear? Like you were afraid that if they came back and asked you to testify that they wouldn't let you go?
I got 4 kids to think about.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tell on nobody.
Yeah. So you were afraid that you'd be forced to testify.
Yeah.
What might have happened then?
Well, if I would have, my whole life would have probably changed, and it would have all been great and wonderful and fine. And
you weren't worried about
different.
reprisals, people coming after you if you
That's
testified?
what I was worried about. That's why I went on the run.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't, and so I just sunk deeper into the meth. It's easier to get meth on the streets than it is to get money for a burger. You know what I mean? And meth keeps you wide awake. It makes it so you're not hungry.
Yeah.
Raises your blood temperature so you're not cold.
Freezing.
Yeah.
Keeps you going so you're walking.
That's tough. I mean, anybody, most of our listeners, I think, are probably familiar, but if you're not, northern Utah in the winter is a cold, desolate, I mean, it is not a place to be outside.
So how do you survive on the streets for 4 years and 8 months?
Well, I became a creative collector, I guess you'd say, right?
A creative collector.
Yeah.
So for those that are at home, how big are you?
What do you mean?
Like, you're how tall are you? How much do you weigh?
Right now, I weigh 340 pounds.
Back
6
then?
feet. Back then, I was 160.
And 6'8".
6.
6
feet.
Oh, 6 feet. So you become a creative collector. We got to ask, what does that mean?
That means that because if I was going to be, all these people were thinking didn't know who I was, whether I was telling on somebody or, all of my circle of people. Mm-hmm. They didn't know if I was, did the murder or what. I just went on the run. So they were saying I was crazy and all this, and I was going to show them crazy. And that's what I was going to be, is crazy. And I was going to be the worst of the worst. And I was going to be higher than you, and I was going to do more drugs than you, and I was going to take your drugs, and I was going to take them. And if I went to your house, I meant to do it because they weren't letting me in their house, so I meant to go to their house. And if I was going to your house, I was there for a reason. I was taken. So I was creatively collecting stuff. You know what I mean? I wasn't there for just to be your friend.
So off air, I don't know if you can say this, and if we can't, we'll bleep it, but you told me you were buying people's debt.
Yeah, so somebody would end up owing somebody money, and I would end up figuring out a way to buy that debt at 50%, and then, so now that person owed me money. That debt was clear.
And then you would go collect.
I'd go collect. I'd leave a card. I went by this guy named Jimmy Ray Johnson, and I had a card that had Creative Collective Services, and I left it, didn't have a number on it. But if I left it on your door, you knew I was coming back.
So this is a business, sort of. You had a business card, and you were going around basically doing what these loan shark type folks do. They'll high interest rate. They'll buy somebody out of their debt, and then that person owes, and then they'll go collect from them. Mm-hmm. But you had a business card. Yeah. That's like a Tarantino film, I think, right there.
I had to be that guy. I had a sword. So I had my leather jacket. I had a fanny pack, Harley Davidson fanny pack that had a speaker on it with my guitar. I had a buck knife and a buck knife. I had a buck knife in the laces, a buck knife in the laces here. And I had leather strips on the end of those. I had a sword that I took off a guy's wall.
Now, I don't want to call Ogden Police Department out, but nobody could find you for 4 years.
Right.
He was like a Viking.
Yeah.
Right. And I put a lawnmower rope pulley on the end of that sword so I could swing it around.
Oh,
And if I showed up at your house, I meant to be there.
Oh, man.
okay. So you finally get arrested.
I hate to laugh about this because it's actually pretty sad that
It's scary.
you felt like you had to create this scary persona. This
full on.
because you did that come. My experience is that often when a person goes to those lengths, they themselves are scared.
Full on. Scared of life, scared of walking around the corner.
People didn't trust you anymore. Your
No, they
circle
didn't.
of friends thought maybe you were a murderer,
Yeah.
or maybe you were going to rat them out.
Yeah.
And so you were afraid for your own life. So
Yeah.
instead of withdrawing and going somewhere else, and you became,
You leaned into it.
it was, Mad Max Thunderdome in
Yeah.
the streets of Ogden.
Yeah. And if you had a problem with me, then if you were looking for me, I was looking for you.
So you
That's all
became
I was doing.
aggressive. That's how you
I
handled
wasn't even playing.
your
I
fear.
wasn't even playing about it.
Wow.
If you didn't like me, then I didn't like you. And we'd discuss it in your backyard at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, those are interesting conversations.
So after 4 years and 8 months, the cops find you.
Yeah, I get pulled over. I
You had a car?
No, I was with somebody.
Oh, okay.
I learned not to drive. But I finally, because
It's hard to fit the sword in the back and everything.
Yeah, well, it was smaller. It was one of those ones. But anyway, we get pulled over in Clinton, and they get me out of the car, and I finally just give them my name, right? Because I had all these different aliases and stuff. And to be honest with you, and I told the cops this a long time ago, I just take, whenever they would stop me and give me a ticket, I'd give them a different name, and I'd change the last digit in my social security number, 528-11-99-50, whatever.
Yeah, I probably don't want to tell people your social security number.
No, I didn't.
This isn't his first time, Casey.
I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure. He's like, I didn't. So they arrest you, and they finally go, we've been looking for you for 4 years and
But
8
what
months.
made you give your real name this time versus all the time?
The trial was over. Everything was done,
Okay.
and I was just done. I was tired. I hadn't seen my kids. I hadn't seen my kids in forever. I'd do stupid things like go over to my ex-wife's house and rearrange the furniture and stuff before they got home from school, so they still knew their dad was around.
You break into your ex-wife's house, rearrange the furniture. That's a little creepy.
I just wanted my kids to know I was still around.
You probably felt desperate, huh?
Very. I knew that she was going to call the cops on me if I even showed up there.
So you didn't feel like you could show up and see him, huh?
And I was scared. I was scared to let anybody know where they were at. You know what I mean? Didn't know what was happening. And I was just full of fear. You know what I mean? So,
You know, it's interesting because during your conversation and your story, we've had some laughs and all that stuff, and you jump in on it. But anytime it gets brought back to your kids, your demeanor changes. It shifts. You sink into your chair a little bit, and you can hear the love that you have for your kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do the same thing, and try to make light of something because I don't want you to know how bad I really am hurting. But you can see when your kids' names get brought up, you can see the hurt.
yeah. And I love them with all my heart. So that, when I got busted, I had an $80,000 bond for me because they had looking for me for years. Mm-hmm. Went to jail. I got a lawyer. My mom helped me get a lawyer, and they were really cool. The judge was cool. He understood it. He understood that this was all on me and why I ran on the run and everything. He was cool. So he sentenced me to prison diversion, which I still went out to diagnostics or whatever they called it. But then I got put into a 6-month treatment program they called the prison diversion program.
Yeah.
So instead of going into the prison itself, I went to...
So he understood that going just to prison, just to cool your heels for years in prison wasn't going to really help you. That you were a person who needed treatment. You needed help and support. And I think it's great that you're willing to talk about the fear part right now, because I think fear really truly is one of those base emotions that will cause people to do some pretty outrageous, uncharacteristic things. Mm-hmm. Fear is a powerful force in our life, and it sounds to me like you became the fear to try to protect yourself, but you finally just got tired of faking it, I guess.
Do it anymore.
How did the diversion program work out?
Good. I met a girl.
Part 3.
And we got ended up being
Did you guys
together.
run away to California?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
At least I think we're
Did you have
changing the
kids?
story.
Yeah.
Oh, you had kids. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter Macy.
Okay.
And I was doing good. I got a job back at that same JB's restaurant, and I was a manager there. I was, on probation. I was doing good. She was doing good. We got married, and I thought I was doing good enough to where I could think maybe I can try a little bit. Maybe I can do just a little bit.
So the program helped you get sober, but once life started to feel like, hey, everything's working, we got the job, we got the wife, got the place to live, and then all of a sudden that little worm kind of creeped back in your brain, didn't
You
it?
wanted to take the drugs for a test drive again.
Yeah, I wanted to go for more. I don't know, just to see if it works still. I guess I don't know. I just thought it would be a good idea. I don't know why. It just creeped in my head.
Did it work?
Well, I ended up relapsing, and kept it from her for a minute. She went into labor, and I walked in to the room, and she knew immediately. She looked at me. She knew I was high, and she was done. She was so mad. And Macy was born, and took her home, and she left me with this brand new 5-day-old baby girl.
She left you with the baby?
She's gone.
Wow.
Gone. Never came back.
That's pretty
Now I got
unusual.
this baby girl. I don't know what's going on, man. Tripping out with this baby girl, you know what I mean? And I had to take her to my mom's and have my mom help me, and ended up quitting my job and just going deeper into the addiction for another few years. And just my mom kind of raised my daughter there for a while, because I just went nuts. Went back into Ogden, back into the same behaviors, same actions, behaviorisms, same circles, same stuff.
Back on meth?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Full on. Back on meth.
So that became your drug of choice, it sounds like.
Full on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to drink to come down a little bit so I could calm down. Because I was doing it. I mean, I stayed up for 31 days once. People may not believe me, but that's true. You know what I mean?
31
No,
days.
I know it can happen. Yeah.
So how does this run and gun situation end?
I ended up getting busted. I got busted. I had a standoff with Layton City Police Department at Reams parking lot. I went in there with a sword, with a machete, thinking I'm not hiding it, right? It's not concealed. And I went into the store, and then by the time I came out, it was like 10 o'clock at night. There was a circle of Layton Police Department, and I'm arguing with them about how this is it's not illegal to have. I'm not having it, you know what I mean? It's not illegal. And I had forgot that I had a little bit of meth in my pocket, and they caught me with it.
What was your behavior like in the Reams? Do you think you had done anything to scare the employees? Or?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, here I am in my leather jacket, sweating bullets, got a machete just on my shoulder like a bat.
Yeah, so you don't blame somebody for calling the cops?
No, absolutely not. But,
But in your mind, you weren't doing anything wrong, and I think that's obviously part of the problem when a person's really high is they're not thinking clearly, and they don't realize the effect they have on others.
I
And
realize
so,
what you're doing.
if you'd have been minding your P's and Q's, maybe they wouldn't have called the cops. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was standing in the candy aisle, and I look over, and there's this little lady shaking, calling on her phone, and I'm like, I should probably get out of here.
So the cops arrest you, find meth on you. They take you to jail. Do you end up going to prison or jail?
No, they put me in the RSAT program,
What's that?
Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Center in the county jail.
Okay.
So I did that. Right? So you're sentenced to a year, and then when you complete the RSAT program, the treatment center in jail, they'll let you out early, but you have to wait to get put into the treatment center part of it. Still in jail, and you're still in jail for the program.
It's like an in-house treatment
So
opportunity.
I did that.
How did this one work?
I got out, and I did real good. And then I had relapsed, and the judge sentenced me. I came back, and the judge sentenced me to prison. But then he saw me that I successfully completed the prison diversion program before, so he put me in there again. And that's where I met Michelle.
Another girl.
Yeah, my third wife.
Okay. I'm sensitive, pattern.
It seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you marry this one.
Yeah. We found Christ together. We got sober together. We was doing everything great together. She had 3 kids, and I have my 5. You know what I mean? So we're doing good. We're living life. I'm going to church. We got baptized together. We're living the Ozzie and Harriet lifestyle. And again, a year into it, we think we can have a couple of drinks. You know what I mean? Go buy a bottle, and we prayed over the bottle. Dear Lord, just bless us with this bottle and let us be a happy family as we drink this bottle in joyful times. You know what I mean?
Now, in a sober mind, looking back upon that, I mean, because I can see you doing that. And being an addict myself, I can understand the reasoning and the thought process that goes into that. But now, 5 years sober, looking back, I mean, that's the obsession and the obscenity of this disease. I mean, it really is just so mind-altering crazy that you think that was a good idea. Here, all you had to do was stay away from it, and you had everything you wanted.
Yeah. Justifying it.
Or rationalize it or whatever it is. So you start drinking, and does that go down quick?
Yeah, so eventually we start doing meth again and just spent the next 3 years just hammering it.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids got taken. The kids don't want us. Nothing done.
Did the state step in and take the kids? No, just family members? Yeah.
Yeah, Macy's gone back to mom's, and we just went down this hole. And then I ended up getting arrested and going to jail for a trespassing charge. And she went to a homeless shelter. We lost our house. And I got out, and I just never went back, right? I mean, we tried a couple of times. I went to Bible college at one time in Chicago to get sober. And I lasted about 7 months and came back and couldn't stop drinking, started drinking heavily. This is when I really became a hard alcoholic instead of meth. Just full on drinking heavily, bouncing from house to house, staying at my mom's house, trying to repair my relationship with my wife, and that wasn't working, and I couldn't stop drinking. And so we ended up and then I just went downhill. I still was, like, I got a job at a fishing lodge up in Alaska and became a chef up there for a couple of years, a couple seasons. Come back, live with my mom, and then I just kind of fell into the hole again and thought I could start doing meth again, and ended up getting busted for a half ounce and going to jail for a year. Macy's gone. My wife's divorced me. I don't got nothing. And I decided I was going to start doing meth, and I got out of jail. I did pretty good I got off paper, went back to Alaska, came back, and here we are again. I thought I could, I was a year sober, thought I could do it again. And then my mom died, and I don't know, it kind of is all a blur after that, right? And my family came down and took Macy and said, Macy's coming up with us to Seattle, and if you want to go to the ACT, get clean, you can move up to Seattle. And start a new life, right? Macy's, 13, 14 time now. And so, my boys are older. One boy's in the Marines, and they're doing pretty good. My other son's a chef, and they're doing good, and they're just over their dad's addiction, alcoholism deal. They just keep me at arm's length from there on out. And so Macy, and it's just me and Macy, she goes up to, she's going to kill me probably, but she goes up to Seattle, and then I go through the ACT, and I sell everything, and I get up there, and they say, okay, well, you're going to sign your total rights away from her, because my mom had guardianship when she died. It fell into, it was like in lieu.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we'll ask her. And she comes down, and I'm like, Macy, you want to do this? She's like, no, I want to stay with my daddy. And like, okay, well, you can get out. You're not going to stay here. So they kicked us out, and we ended up being homeless up there in Seattle for a little bit, and a couple nights, and we ended up down in Vancouver, Washington, and we were going to make a go of it. And I was sober still, got a motel, had a friend, Matt, got us a motel up there. I got a job up there, got her into school up there. We were taking the bus every day, dropping her off at school, then I'd go to work, and then I'd pick her up. We was going to make a go of it. You know what I mean? We're going to do this, me and Macy against the world. And then one day I picked her up from school. She's just sitting out front of the school, and she's like, "Daddy, we're going to be homeless. Can we be homeless at home?" So that, like, next night I was on the Greyhound bus and we came home. Got a motel at the Royal Inn in Roy. Got down to my last, still sober, still struggling. My girlfriend just recently died. She died overdosed, and dealt with that. Staying sober. I'm not doing this. I'm going to do good. Got down to the very last day in my motel, and I was like, God, I'm trying here. I'm going to lose Macy. They're going to come just take her now. And my son calls and says, "Hey, Dad, we got somebody I want you to meet, but you got to get out here to Layton." So I got on the bus, went to Layton, couldn't find a job anywhere. I tried because I burned every bridge and I'm a felon. I couldn't get an apartment because I'm a felon. Anyway, my son's like, "Hey, I need you to meet this lady." This lady's like, "Hey, we're getting a divorce from my husband. I'm moving out to my grandma's. Do you want to stay in our house? And we can just pay $400 a month until we sell the house. And I understand you need a place to stay." 15 minutes later after that, an old boss of mine that I had burned the bridge on called me and says, "Hey, Riley, I really need a cook." And then 15 minutes later after that, somebody from Oregon calls and says, "Hey, we got a car in our driveway, bro. If you want to use it, go ahead and use it, you know." And 15 minutes later after that, somebody put Macy's name in the Utah Military Academy Scholarship Program, and they picked her.
Oh, wow.
That's
right?
a very fortuitous day.
Yeah. All one afternoon. Couldn't believe it.
Amazing.
Right? And it was just doing the next right thing, right? At that time. And I did really good, man. We did good. She was at Utah Military Academy. She'd changed her whole life, her attitude. You know, we didn't have to worry about clothes because it was all the same clothes, and they provided all the funding, and I was working, and I ended up getting a nicer apartment, and a better job cooking, and doing good. And I was kitchen manager, was doing good. I got me a new car, and then I was sober 18 months, and on Christmas Eve, I went to a bro's house, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Macy's happy. She's, junior in school, was doing great. And he handed me a loaded syringe and said, "You remember what this is?" Kunk. Handed me a bunch of dope and said, "Here, Merry Christmas." So I made it through Christmas Day. I don't know, I was high, but could have been a couple of days later. But Macy came in and caught me in the washroom, the washer and dryer room, at 3:00 in the morning, with a tie on my arm, trying to put a needle in my arm, and that blood-curdling scream that she let out. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that just happened after everything I did. She called my brother. She had left, gone. And I just sunk into a deeper hole after that. That's it. I give up. I quit. I'm going to be a drug addict junkie for the rest of my life. I don't care. I had my car. However long, a year later, they finally repoed my car. 3:00 in the morning, I'm chasing it down the street, and everything I had left was in my car. I had the clothes on my back. I remember sitting down in the middle of the street, realizing I have nothing. I literally have nothing now. I don't have no clothes. I don't have no money. I don't have no cigarettes. I don't have my kids. I don't have nothing. And I just walked the streets of Ogden. Again, just walked the streets. I lived behind a dumpster down behind the Lantern House and down by the river, homeless. I went from one house, as best I could, to another house for I don't even know how long, months and months. Just didn't care anymore. I had succumbed to the fact that I was going to be a junkie, miserable, alcoholic bum for the rest of my life till I died. I didn't care anymore. So.
But your story doesn't end there.
Nope.
Or you wouldn't be here.
Nope.
So, but let's feel this. I mean, that's such, you had really hung in there through some pretty tough times in Washington and coming back to Utah. Your mom had passed and your girlfriend had passed, and yet you were still hanging on. And it seems like and then you have that day the miracle day, whatever you want to call it, where everything just came together and things are going so well. But it was that loss of that relationship with your daughter that really made you feel hopeless, wasn't it?
It was over after that. My boys didn't want nothing to do with me. They were done. My oldest son, done. And just couldn't do it anymore.
And sitting there in the street feeling like you have nothing. But like Casey said, something must have eventually happened. So you're back to being homeless again.
Yeah.
What happened?
My oldest daughter, I kind of adopted her from my third marriage from Michelle. She's my daughter. She calls me dad. And I went to her work. She was working at Jimmy John's, and she had just recently got into recovery. And I just asked her. I hadn't showered in a month, probably. Haven't taken my boots off in over a month, probably. And she's like, Dad, you can't be here. You can't be here. I just want a sandwich. She's like, nope, you got to get out of here. And I started walking down the street, and she chased me down with these giant crocodile tears. And, Dad, just call this number. Just call this number. And it was the number to Valley Camp. And it still took me, I don't know how long, a couple of weeks, I was high, but I ended up calling my sister in Layton that I'd burned a couple of years before. And I said, listen, I got this number to Valley Camp. I don't really know what to do with it, but I don't got a phone. She's like, if you call Valley Camp every day, because the deal is if you call Valley Camp, you get on the list, you have to call every day to keep interested and let them know that you're still interested. A few days later, and so my sister comes and gets me a pack of cigarettes, gets me cleaned up, I eat. And I call Valley Camp, and a few days later, they asked me to go to a meeting up there. And so I go up there, and just for a meeting on a Saturday night, they got a beautiful bonfire meeting where it's at a podium and bleachers, and it's all outside in the woods, beautiful.
So for those who don't know, Valley Camp is what?
It's a men's residential treatment facility, nonprofit, 12-step program.
That houses how many patients?
10, 11.
10 or 11, and they call you up for a meeting on a Saturday night, which I think they do every Saturday night.
Yeah, every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday night.
So you're going up there thinking you're just going to go to a meeting.
Yeah. And I just so happen to know the president of the board from years ago, and they kind of corner me at the Burger Shack, and they're like, hey, man, you serious about getting clean? I'm like, I don't know, really. I don't know, I guess. Like, well, if you're serious about it, you can stay here from here on out right now. I'm like, I don't know about all that. They're like, really? And I'm like, well, I don't got no money. That's all right. We'll figure it out. I don't even got clothes. The clothes on my back. They're like, it's all right. We'll figure it out. You stay here from this moment on. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I stayed there, still kicking, stomping feet and kicking dirt and not really wanting to be a part of the program. I wasn't doing anything to really get in trouble, but I wasn't really participating either. And I got to my 30 days, and it was my 30-day, right? My 30-day chip. They give you a 30-day chip in AA. And I'm sitting up at the Burger Shack, and I'm feeling just whatever. And I look down, and there's Macy running up the hill. And she's giving me my 30-day chip. So we get up to the podium. There's all these people there. There's Macy there. She may have been 10 years old with pigtails again, as far as I was concerned. She gets up in front of everybody and she says, my daddy thinks I'm mad at him. I just want my daddy to get better. From that moment on, I dedicated my life to recovery. Whatever they told me to do, if I put my head in the toilet 10 times a day and that was going to get me clean and sober, I was doing it. They told me to do the 12 steps, I was doing them. I was doing anything, and I was giving it all 122% effort. I was doing it, whatever it took. And I did. And I dedicated my life to recovery from that moment on. And I got sober. I got clean. I did leave because triggers. Mm-hmm. I left for a year out of Ogden and moved up to Wyoming, Evanston. And I came back down for meetings, and I wrote a letter to my oldest son as if I was him, to me. And I tried to call him, and he would never talk to me. Macy was talking to me, but somewhat, they're still very standoffish. Mm-hmm. I was able to work my way back into their lives a little bit, and came back down here. I was about a year sober, and my son Anthony shows up. The one that left at 2 weeks old, heard his dad was sober. And he wanted to get to know who his dad was. And I've seen him a couple of times in the past, but nothing. I was drunk and high. But now he wants to hear his dad. So we ended up getting, we get to know each other, and we ended up getting a house together. And I was like, this got to be more to life than this. I was just a cook, and I just didn't want to do that. And I was kind of wanting to give up. And then my daughter, Lindsay, she's like, why don't you try to be in a peer support? I'm like, what? They ain't going to hire me. I'm a felon, junkie, wannabe. They're like, just try it, Dad. If it's not working this way, just try it. Just try it. And I went and applied. At Weber Human Services. They gave me a shot as a technical person for a new treatment center they had going on there. And I worked there at graveyard shifts, and then they offered me a peer support position full-time. First time I ever had a job with insurance was 4 years ago, with actual insurance and actual paid time off and I worked in this treatment center with these guys up and coming, and I get to be their peer support. I get to hang out with them all day, and I was more comfortable there than I was even in my own house, my son, because that's where I've been most of my life, in those kinds of places or on the streets. So I'm with these guys, and I'm just working with them every day, and they're paying me to do it. And then a job came up with USARA, and I went and applied for there, and they gave me a shot. And now that's where I work today, and I still work there at Weber, at Stepping Stones, and doing the best I can to be with these guys all day long. I get to talk recovery, and then I ran for the board of directors up at Valley Camp, and I got voted on as a director.
Oh, that's great.
At Valley Camp. And so now I'm working here. I'm working at USARA as a life coach. Every day I get to sit down with people and talk about goals and how can we help you get sober and what can we do to keep you clean today. Let's talk about what your gratitude list is. Let's talk about how grateful you are for this. What do you like about yourself every day? Let's do this together, man. Let's lift each other up together. And I get to do it every single day, man. And then I get to be a part of Valley Camp, where it started for me. My life, like you said, can't even imagine. My baby girl, got all my kids.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better than what I'm at today.
I'm feeling it. Man. Oh, man.
I'm like, whatever you're selling, I'm buying, because
this is a happy person.
Yes.
I can feel it. Thank you so much
his
for sharing
happiness is
it.
making me happy.
It's giving me goosebumps.
I mean,
right
yeah,
now.
It's
the
cool
positivity of what you get to do every day. And who's more qualified to be a peer coach than you?
Yeah.
Certainly not me. That's amazing. You are comfortable with them, and you can inspire them.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Before we end this podcast, you see people and you talk recovery all day, every day. Mm-hmm. When you see somebody who says, I'm an alcoholic, junkie, bum, and that's all I'm ever going to be, what can you say to them to help them change their mind?
That's who I used to be. I was that. I did the same thing. And I'm not that today. And you're not that today. And if you want to get clean, then I can help you get clean. I can show you what I did. All I can do is tell you what I did. Show you my story. And if we can sit down, if you want to sit down for an hour and we'll have a cup of coffee, and I'll do what I just did with you guys. And I'll share my story. I said, let's do this together. I can help you get into treatment. I can help you get into Valley Camp. I'm a board of director there now. I got some pull. You know what I mean? I can work with you on an every single day basis until we can get this together.
You tell me, but how often do you see hope come into the eyes of the people you talk to like that? Because they're hopeless when they say, I'm a bum, I can't ever make it. And then somebody like you can share that life story with them, can offer them solutions, and every day you see hope come into their face.
Every day.
Yeah. And hope is such a powerful agent of change.
Yep, and I get to be a small part of it for all these different
you're
guys.
a big part of it. You're a big part of it, and that's what's great. I get to work with lots of fancy, smart people up at the University of Utah with lots of degrees, and that's wonderful. I'm not making fun of it. It's great, but you know what? There are so many people that are doing such great work because of their experience in life, and they're sharing that experience, and they're providing support. And I'll be honest, I've never been where you've been. And that's okay with me, trust me. But I can't have that same conversation with somebody in a way that you can. And if anybody out there listening thinks that that's a small thing, they're very wrong. That's a very powerful, that's a big thing. It's bigger
Vulnerability is a superpower.
Vulnerability and connection. We talk about
being authentic.
Yeah. What do we talk about on this show?
The opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's connection.
And being able to connect with somebody like you do is a powerful tool for change.
Yeah, I love it. I love what I do. I can't wait to get to work every day and meet with people that want to find recovery, find some hope. Let's do that together. I love it. Get to do it every day, and now I get to drive to Valley Camp every night. They invited me for a short time to be a live-in manager up there, which they've done in 20 plus years probably.
Great.
Well, I'm inspired by you.
I love when he says, "Let's do that together," because I feel like, well, I want to do it with you. I'm not an addict. I want to do it.
This, and I know we say this all the time, but right now this has probably been one of my most favorite podcasts we've ever done.
Absolutely.
Hour and 6 minutes for Riley to actually smile, says producer
But
Josh.
now the smiles lighten up the room.
But Josh brings up a good point. Once he started talking about recovery, the light that came on in his face, and the color in his skin, and his demeanor, and his attitude, and his just talking with his hands, it was absolutely like me and you were both just like we were watching Tom Cruise on Top Gun. Yeah. Like, this is awesome.
It is awesome.
This is awesome.
You're living your best life right now, aren't you, Riley?
Yeah, best. I got an amazing relationship with all my kids, all of them. Got an amazing relationship with their mothers.
Oh, that's great.
That is wonderful. I mean, it's me and Macy against the world again, and her brothers.
Oh.
It's awesome.
I love it. Riley, thank you very much for stopping by and sharing your story. It is going to be an inspiration to many out there. Dr. Matt, thank you for your insight as always. I love you with all of my heart. In case you forgot, Project Recovery is what?
You know what? It's a KSL podcast, Casey.
That's right.